All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ben Stewart, and you're listening to the Waking Infinity podcast. Today, I have with you a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Uma Dhanabalan, and she has totalhealthcarethc.com. You should definitely check it out. She is one of the very few cannabinoid medicine specialists, and that's something that we're going to explore what that even means on this podcast. She's also, I got the pleasure of meeting her in person in Natick, Massachusetts. I hope I pronounced that right, Natick. And it was amazing to be able to sit with her and to see her passion and listen to her story and what it is that she's actually doing in what we would call allopathic medicine, a Western approach, but being able to include this plant that has been out of our reach for quite some time. So I'm really happy to be bringing her to you. But we are on. This is April 19th right now, and we are in the middle of this coronavirus quarantine. And I find that to be very interesting. Oh, let me interject there. I was in the presence of Dr. Uma because I was with Chef Pete Evans and we were filming a film on cannabis and hemp that Dr. Uma is featured heavily in. That I'll have more news for you guys on that here soon. But in this interesting time that we're in, we were supposed to be launching this film right now, and we're experiencing delays. And everybody in the world, this is a very interesting time. We've never had a quarantine in my lifetime, and it's never been global, and it never had this economic impact. So I'm wondering, how are you staying healthy, Dr. Uma, during this quarantine time? What are you doing for the health of your mind and your body?
Ben, first of all, I want to say thank you very much. I just want to make some updates. I go by Dr. Uma, and my last name is Dhanabalan. And we are very proud to note that we have a brand new location, and we're going to be launching and be happy to let people know it's going to be at 777 Concord Avenue, Suite 106 in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We're very excited about it, and especially being that tomorrow is 420. What we've been very excited also about is our clinic is called Uplifting Health and Wellness, and our website is upliftinghealthandwellness.com. And our philosophy is Total Healthcare THC, and that's also our website, totalhealthcarethc.com. Our phone number is 508-444-2324. And I'm very, very proud to be here. And as Ben mentioned, I had the pleasure of meeting Ben in person along with Pete Evans and being a part of this new film that's going to be coming out and sharing my journey. And today we are facing the COVID virus issue at hand. For me, this is not my first experience with what would be considered a pandemic or exposure to the virus. My experience goes back to my time with Kimberly Clark when I was there from 2003 to 2006. And we had the SARS virus that we dealt with back then. And we had 7,000 employees in Thailand working together, making the lovely purple gloves that we share today, which are much needed. And what we did is really educate people. And that's part of what I truly believe in is to let people know about the truth and also about what we've learned. And there is much more to learn. And that's one of the most important things that I want people to understand about our mind and body is that there's so much that we know, there's so much that we've yet to discover. And what I found is the basics of health and mind are prevention. And
Hmm.
I believe that my experience with my patients has been that educating them about this is not going to be the first virus. This is not going to be the last virus. This will not be the first time that we are experiencing this as a global issue. It might be for many people because this is kind of new to a whole new generation. And you mentioned the word global. My company is called Global Health and Hygiene Solutions. And five things that I said when we created this company was five things for health and five things for hygiene. And the five things for health I still share. Wash your hands, cover your cough, don't litter, don't spit, and brush your teeth. And these are still the things that I tell people that we would always encourage. And now we are now told to do it, not requested, but told to do that because many places now you cannot go into locations unless you have a mask on.
Hmm.
As far as the health piece, the other factors are we need to go out and exercise, breathing, making sure that we're eating right because the most people that have been affected are what are considered immunocompromised or people that are more susceptible to the complications of this virus. And this is flu season as well.
What I'm hearing about the solutions here, how to keep yourself healthy during these times, it's like the solutions haven't changed since the beginning. It's always been sensible diet, healthy movement, probably laughing more, more community, things along those lines that have always kept us healthy. Except now there's the social distancing and there's this fear that comes along with a pandemic. And so, do you help people in your practice also deal with things like anxiety, panic attacks, fear, just general fear, depression? Do you help them with issues like this?
Absolutely. I'm a primary care physician and a family doctor. That's my foundation. My second half of my life came into learning about preventative health, and I did my master's in public health and my occupational environmental medicine residency, and also specialized in heavy metals. And now, very proud to say, a cannabinoid medicine specialist. So my experience has been vast in addressing anxiety, depression, fear, um, PTS. I like to leave the D off. It's post traumatic stress. And we're going to see this in different forms. And people are going to have fear and anxiety. And a long time ago, I learned the word fear meant future events appearing real. And that's really what fear is. And there's always going to be those kind of things, and no matter what we do, because it's something new. So, yes, I help people to understand that we need to learn how to cope and understanding the tools that can be used. And what our society has is things that are available legally to them, things that are available illegally to them, and things that they have used as habits, good or bad. And these are when people have situations that they're fearing or feeling anxious, I let them know that we do have some tools and breathing, getting out
Yeah,
and
why breathing? Like, could you explain that? Because it seems like, well, we breathe all the time, but could you explain like healthier breathing?
absolutely, because a lot of people think we're breathing and we're living, right? So we figure, oh, okay, we must be breathing. But ultimately, when you teach people like what a breath really feels like, they realize, wow, I didn't realize that I was not breathing. And so I teach people five times two is 10. And I teach them this because five fingers, two hands, and if you count all of them together, it's 10. And I teach people count one, 1,000, two, 1,000, so on, up to 5 seconds. And I teach them the tool of in and out. And we could do it together. So I teach them breathe in through your nose and count 5 seconds, hold the breath for 2 seconds, and let it out through your mouth for 10 seconds. And as you're letting it out, we teach them pull the belly button in. And as you're breathing in through the nose, let the lungs expand. So let's do one round together, okay?
Okay.
So
Yes.
5 seconds in, so it's and out slowly. Beautiful. And just that will help people just, it's 17 seconds that we've taken to do that one round. And
It's incredible how one breath can do that as well.
absolutely. Some people have some different versions of it, but I'm like, that's as simple as I could teach it. And it's amazing. Many of my patients are also, everyone is a teacher, is how I look at it. And so they teach it to their children, they teach it to their family members, they teach it to themselves. And this is a philosophy that I really believe in. Reach one, teach 10, teach one, reach 10. And these are some, like, if people can have easy things that they can go to, you know, if you could tell people do this for 3 minutes, 3 times a day, if you can go do a 7 minute walk, I call it the 7 minute date night, and take somebody out for 7 minutes, go out for a nice walk and come back. And by that time, it's about 15 minutes. And then, they'll get into the groove of just starting out by doing small things. And I love threes, fives, tens. Like, these numbers are easy for me. And what I feel is that people need things that they can start out with and things that they can progress with and then they can monitor. And any of these things, if it's your food that we're talking about, if it's your exercise, if it's your breathing, if it's just how you start reading and spending time with your family, these are all little things that you can incorporate into your life. And not only for you, for your children, for your parents, different generations.
Yeah, there's got to be something so powerful about really connecting with your family, connecting with your community, and how that impacts our health as well and our immunity to things such as everyday common things that we may get stricken with when we're immunocompromised. I know there's a lot of people talking about wireless and Wi-Fi and electromagnetic frequencies and the jumping into 5G and how harmful this is to the body. And I absolutely agree. But I also see that the very simple things that you shared at the beginning, a sensible diet, movement, hydrating, taking time to breathe correctly. It seems like these people are the ones who aren't as susceptible to the effects of many things, whether it be EMFs or the depletion of the topsoil not giving us nutrient dense food as much anymore, and also the effects that it has on our endocannabinoid system. And I would love for our audience to better understand that system, how integrated it is into our health, and why it is that you went into endocannabinoid medicine.
Oh, I think this is such a perfect segue. I want to touch on a few things that you mentioned. Nourishment, food. These are the things that I really believe that the patients that come to me that I'm able to integrate with them is they're already starting to get a little bit in tune. Like, they're ready for some change. And what we tell our patients is that you're absolutely right. Our food has been depleted. And I make the statement, food is medicine and cannabis is food and medicine, which is part of a very important system that most people don't know about. And me, as a clinician, never ever learned about it. And most doctors still are not taught about it. And I've been around the block more than your average physician. Most doctors finish medical school and they go through a residency and they come out and they start practicing. I did a couple of residency, and even before I started med school, I did about 10 to 15 years of research. And one thing that's very, very crucial is vitamins. I encourage people to make sure the ABCD right there. A, your vitamin A. Are you getting enough vitamin B? Are you getting enough C? That's something that's been around a long time. And I learned about this in the 70s with through Linus Pauling's work. And that's something that's very important even now that people have to incorporate. And D, people are not getting enough sunlight. So they need to get out and get their vitamin D. And along with that comes making sure that they get magnesium and zinc. These are all of the other micronutrients and essentials vitamins that we need to be thinking about. And this brings us into understanding that we have a beautiful plant known as cannabis, which has been around for thousands of years. And I'm originally from India. And we knew about this plant as part of the Ayurvedic medicine. William O'Shaughnessy first learned about this plant from the doctors in India, and he learned about it in Calcutta. And Ayurvedic medicine considered cannabis as a sacred plant. And what they said back then was that within this plant lived a guardian angel, which helped us with fear and anxiety. Isn't that something that they talked about this concept of fear and anxiety thousands of years ago? So this is nothing new, is what I want people to understand, that we're going to get through this and we're going to come out stronger, and there will be a bit of resilience, and there will be certain things that won't be needed in our body as we start to learn that we will acclimate and we will become resilient and also be able to adapt to things much more quicker. And what we need to understand is that this endocannabinoid system is what cannabis works with. And the only difference between hemp and marijuana is the fact that this is a man made segregation. And in the United States, we've got a segregation limit based on the THC. If it's less than 0.3% THC, it's considered hemp. If it's greater than 0.3%, it's considered marijuana. But it belongs to the family of Cannabicia. The genus is Cannabis sativa. There are three species: Cannabis sativa, Cannabis indica, Cannabis ruderalis. And the two biggies that we talk about are sativa and indica. And what we now know is that this plant has over 1,000 different chemicals, and we've identified cannabinoids, many of them. And this plant has cannabinoids, terpenoids, flavonoids, and fatty acids. And these are all part of this lovely plant. And when we talk about hemp, hemp has more than 20 amino acids. Nine of them are essential. 10 grams of protein in one serving. 3 tablespoons is considered one serving, 180 calories. The perfect omega 3 omega 6 ratio. And I'm mentioning a lot of different terms here because this is nutrition,
Mm.
food. And this is what I want people to understand, that cannabis is not just this drug that people use to put their bodies at ease, but it's also something that they can consume in a form of food. And it's available legally to everybody nationally.
Yeah,
And
hemp seeds are.
hemp seeds are, what do you know? Hemp protein, hemp oil, and hemp hearts. That's how they're formed. So that's just one little facet. Then there's the plant that's available in 33 states now, plus the District of Columbia, in the form of medical marijuana. And I'm in a state right now, Massachusetts, where unless you're a medical marijuana patient, you do not have access to this plant legally.
Why don't people have access to it? I mean, many people know this, but could you tell us why this plant that you just went back into time and you said that it was being used for fear and anxiety way back when it was
Mm.
also being used. I mean, in Mesopotamia they were using this for epilepsy and what they called it, something like hand of ghost, which was a seizure that would happen at night. So why is this medicine that seems so incredibly versatile not accessible to people? Is it dangerous? Is this something that we really need to worry about, how much and what kind of people are able to access it?
I'm so glad. A perfect segue into three facts Dr. Uma wants everybody out there to know. Three facts are that nobody has ever overdosed, and you can't. Unlike alcohol, over the counter medications, prescribed medications, even food overdose or water overdose. But my lovely plant, cannabis, you cannot, because people die because either their heart stops beating or they can't breathe. And part of the brainstem where these receptors are, there is not the presence of the cannabinoid receptors to block it. That's why you may feel like you're dying, but you're not going to die from this plant. Number one. Fact number two, you mentioned the use of this plant. It was used in this country and it was prescribed by doctors and it was listed in the pharmacopoeia from 1850 to 1942 for things that you mentioned like epilepsy, insanity, alcohol addiction, opioid addiction, multiple things. In India, they even used it for tetanus and multiple antiviral uses. Number three, the United States of America has a patent number 6630507, issued on October 7th, 2003, and this plant is listed as an antioxidant and neuroprotectant. So the government also knows that it was used for Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, prevention with strokes and cardiac events. So they know that it's safe, it's been legally used, and you can't die from it, and they hold a patent to it. But you understand that right now, the government is in a situation where we're trying to protect the population. So what they've done is they have made it that unless you have a medical marijuana card in the state of Massachusetts, you cannot have access because adult use, what they call as recreational, has been shut down because it is not considered essential. But meanwhile, liquor stores, alcohol is available.
Hmm.
That's what I said. So this proves the other point that people need to understand. Alcohol is addictive. Cannabis is not as addictive, and you can stop it abruptly, and you're not going to die from it. But if you stop alcohol abruptly, you can possibly die from it. This is why they could not just shut down the liquor stores.
Okay, I can see that logic, because I was just about to ask. Like, there's two things you mentioned. One is people in Massachusetts. So I'm here in Colorado, and the the dispensaries on both the medical and the recreational side are open. So that's interesting that the ones in Massachusetts are not. And there's obviously this man-made distinction. Like you said, there was a man-made distinction between hemp and cannabis, where how much THC there is in the plant, and now there's this other man-made distinction between medical and recreational. But wouldn't you hazard to guess that many people who are using it recreationally are also that this is also medical use? They're using it for ways to enrich their lives, right?
I agree with that 100%. The problem right now is because Massachusetts is located in an area where the abutting states do not have adult use. So the concerns are we're trying to have social distancing. Are people going to come into Massachusetts from the nearby states? And then we would be predisposing the residents of Massachusetts from outside state members. That's the concern that the government and the governor has. And as a public health official, I tend to agree with that. Yet, I feel there should have been some type of allowances for Massachusetts residents to be able to continue to be able to access cannabis.
Hmm. So then, what are your thoughts on? I'm not sure if you've heard there have been some speculation about things. At least the smaller businesses, people being able to get back to this maybe mid May or something like that. It's all speculation right now, but I wanted to ask how is your business or has your business been affected by this quarantine and where a lot of businesses, non-essential businesses, had to close their doors?
As a physician, I have done a lot of my work from the past with telehealth. I was trained with electronic medical records when I first started my family practice residency more than 25 years ago. We learned how to make assessments of people over the phone, and now we have the uh, technology where I could do a FaceTime call, I could do a Zoom call, I can do a different access that we can access through and also be able to see the patient and be actually able to serve more patients. And my practice is very unique because I am many people's primary care doctors also. So I'm able to take care of my patients and make assessments not only for the individuals, but also for their family members and be able to take care of this in a phone call now. And there's been a lot of regulations that have been lifted so that it makes the ease of it be accessible for the patients in Massachusetts and also even other states that I can take care of.
Okay, so what's the consensus if you're still communicating with many of your clients? How would you say this time period that we're in is affecting them, and what are some of the advice you're giving them that's time specific to what's going on right now?
So it's interesting to bring up some of our patients have actually no change in their lives because they've been working from home. Many people had this opportunity where companies did this, communicated, and also commuted to work where they didn't have to leave their homes and did a lot through phone calls or their computers. And even international businesses took on a lot of business that way. And so that's one sector. But then there's the other extreme of people that now not only they're not going to work, so, or they don't have a work to go to, Ben. That is just, you know, life changing for many people. Their businesses don't exist. And
Yeah,
so
just completely shut the doors to it then.
Absolutely. So there's a whole set of those patients, now are facing where they not only did they lose their job, but they lost their health insurance. Okay, they lost maybe connection with their families because no matter where they were disconnected. I had patients that families were stuck across, in other countries trying to get their family members back, or they themselves were stuck in other parts of the world, bringing them back here.
Wow.
Family
That's
members in hospitals where their family members, and I can personally say this myself, where their family members had to go for surgeries, separated from their family members, children separated from their parents and caregivers, elderly patients in nursing homes completely cut off because there is no visitation of
is that
family.
right?
Yes, you cannot go visit your family members in nursing homes, rehab
Wow.
facilities. So this is a disruption in connection,
Yeah.
yet it is creative. because people have gotten on their phones now. They've gotten to talk to their grandparents. They're checking in with people maybe they never would have checked in with. They're using this thing called a phone, even though this 5G, all of this negative things that we have to burden with that whole issue. People just being on their phones, people being bent over, whole conversation of its own, the number
Hmm.
of hours people are connected. People just don't leave their phones. People don't leave their TVs. They don't leave their monitors. They don't leave their watch that's connected to their Apple phone, which, all of these things that we are constantly connected with in different ways that now maybe we have an opportunity to disconnect with.
That's a really good point. And I'm really glad that you mentioned the 5G, because the most you either hear that, oh well, it's just a faster internet, or you hear that it's the thing that's going to irradiate us all and wipe us off the planet, and there's no middle ground. And I remember you saying back or earlier in some of your health tips is that we become more adaptable to external stressors by being in balance ourselves. And so I would love to hear what you think, like in the face of I was also looking at your website right now, and it says that in the Hanford site in Richland, Washington, the largest and most complex cleanup projects in the world, where plutonium, I'm sorry, was manufactured for the first nuclear bomb that detonated in Japan. You actually worked on that cleanup site, and so I'm wondering what it is you had to learn about what people are afraid of, radiation. Now, this is non-ionizing radiation when we're talking about 5G, but it's radiation nonetheless. So it seems like I'm wondering if you have any parallels you could draw to what are the practical things we could be doing that even if we are exposed to this radiation, what could we do to optimize our health to where it will not affect us the way that it would affect an immunocompromised person?
I'm so glad you brought up. This is what I've always loved about what I do today, and what I feel like, this journey of mine continues, is that when I first got into medical school, one of the courses I loved was preventative health. And Dr. Donald Laurie, I still remember, one of my wonderful mentors. And here it is, being able to work at the world's largest cleanup site for plutonium, where that is really crazy ass stuff that you do have to be fearful for. And people were exposed to this, and we still have remnants of this. We still know that there's so much we don't know. We learn about the people that I saw in Washington, the cases of some of the rarest diseases that I saw of people there that had never left Washington, people that had never used any kind of drugs, never smoked, never drank alcohol, yet their children produced with certain rare disorders, tetralogy of Fallot, certain types of cancers, thyroid cancers that we know are related to exposures. So this is where what I feel is that what we learn and what we apply is we eliminate certain things. That's what we learn in occupational medicine. How do we eliminate certain things that we know are detrimental to us? How do we minimize those exposures? And what we're doing now is implementing some of these things. We're telling people, okay, let's become aware, right? Awareness. This is something that I constantly am saying. But not only with the awareness, we've got to hold people accountable now. B, we've got to develop behaviors. You've got to make people understand that this didn't just happen that only one set of people got sick. So we've got to make this better. This is where the behaviors come in. And C, I say you got a choice now in how we do things. But we've got to start getting committed to things. And this is where looking at the foods we're putting into our bodies, looking at you are a customer and a consumer. You have a choice in, do you want to continue to carry around 20 pounds on your body? What are you going to do about it? Do you want to continue to take those blood pressure meds, those diabetes meds, those cholesterol meds, those pain medications those anxiety. All of these are things that we have a choice in. And we're very fortunate that I'm in a state where cannabis is an option. You're in Colorado where it's still available. And what I want people to understand is Dr. Uma says cannabis is not for everyone. Yet, it should be a first line option, not the last resort. One simple philosophy. The other basic philosophy, cannabis is not an entrance drug. It's an exit drug from pharmaceuticals, narcotics, alcohol, and nicotine. I've said this repeatedly, and we know that this is truly the truth. We've seen it now, repeated by other people now. And so I'm happy to see this message being spread throughout the world. And that's what this is about. This is an opportunity globally for humans to unite and to impact humanity.
I'm glad you're bringing up the opportunity aspect of this, because I think that's what, you know, a lot of people, when they're in fear, they only see the external world, it seems, as very binary. They don't see it in its colorful diversity. So it's either something that's going to help them or it's something that's going to hurt them. And it's just kind of interesting that a lot of people, the way they connect to their health is largely by what other people tell them is healthy. And I would love to hear your thoughts on even just how do we know when there's, especially online, there's so much contradictory information where if you want to find science that proves this, you can find it. But if you want to contradict that with science, sometimes you could do that as well, because most people are actually reading, let's say, blogs that are second or third hand from the science. So is there anything that you encourage your clients and just people in general, because you're a public speaker, how do you encourage them to connect with their own sense of agency in their health, like
And
intuitively?
ask questions and listen to your body. You know that your body will tell you. Doctors and healthcare providers don't have the time anymore to listen. Our system of healthcare has changed. You have to go in there as an educated customer and consumer, and we can Google and find as many different blogs and people selling products, selling whatever that they want. But I tell people, look at those vitamins that I mentioned earlier. And I've been pushing a lot with simple things. Make sure people incorporate good fats, simple things like coconut oil that they can eat. Incorporate it on your skin. It's antibacterial, it's antifungal, antiviral. Take a little tiny dab of it, put it into your nails, keep your skin moist. Those are the barriers that you want to keep nice and moist. Make sure that you get out and get some fresh sunlight. Make sure that you know what your numbers are. And we talked about the 5 things for health, for hygiene. These are the 5 things for health that I recommend my patients, everybody globally, to know. 5 numbers people should know. Everybody should know their height and weight, so you know what your BMI is. Everybody should know what their waist to hip ratio is, apples or pears, because that predisposes you to metabolic syndrome. You should know what your good and bad cholesterol is, your HDL and your LDL, healthy cholesterol and lousy cholesterol. You should know what your glucose or your hemoglobin A1C is, so you know what, do you have anything related to diabetes? And you should know what your blood pressure is. So you understand the diseases that we want to prevent: hypertension, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. So, 5 and 5, these are the kind of simple things that I'm trying to teach the world on how to approach things. And
I love. I love it. I love it. And what I'm really loving about it is you mentioned earlier that you really like to educate your patients, and it really does seem like you're putting things. You've distilled your wisdom and put them into very easy to remember. That's what I loved about you when I first met you. Was there's the little acronyms and simple ways to understand and remember some of these very simple health tips that for some reason in our very convenient society we lose a lot of this practical wisdom that we might have held, let's say, in the shamans or in the wisdom keepers in our tribe. So I really appreciate that, and it brings me back to one of the questions that Pete Evans asked you, and that's what is the actual definition of a doctor. And you mentioned an educator, a teacher, and I really love that because it really seems like that's what you seem even more connected to in this. And what I'm loving about it is this is strange, but we've barely even touched the surface on cannabis and the endocannabinoid system. And we've really been talking more about health and the health of humans and the necessity of listening to people. These are really the core elements of health. And I guess where I want to take this is the thing about cannabis that I find so peculiar is there aren't a ton of plants that will change your consciousness the way that cannabis and the psychedelic classes of plants seem to do. And I wanted to know what your thoughts are on what I know with prohibition, there was this very kind of negative smear that went on to being high or altered states of consciousness. But I mean, this was shamanism just prior to that, and that goes way, way back. So, what are your thoughts on maybe the benefits of an altered state of mind every now and then, and how that maybe even helps the not just psychological health, but maybe us finding our purpose, our mission, what we're connected to in this world?
I'm so glad you mentioned shamanism because my grandmother, who I was very blessed to have influenced my life, was a shaman in India, and she didn't read and write, but she would look at you and know what was wrong. They knew to look at you and to touch you and to feel and to treat. We've lost that art in clinical medicine now. The doctor doesn't even look at the patient anymore. They're on their computer. They're trying to fill what they have to check off to submit to the insurance company and follow an algorithm that they need to order the appropriate tests and order the appropriate prescriptions. And that's the algorithm that's being followed right now. And what I get to do now is the three words that we say in our practice: educate, embrace, and empower. And it's uplifting health and wellness, because when people are not at ease, we are in a state of disease. And this is where cannabis and understanding the endocannabinoid system is very, very important, because the endocannabinoid system is about bringing people to a homeostasis. You mentioned cannabis and other psychedelics. There is, people are what I consider high from the sugars that people are eating. They're high from the prescription medications that they're taking. They're high from their carbohydrate, that the foods that they've overdosed on. That's where they're also altered. Their gut has been tainted where it's not able to absorb the natural foods, because the gut has been given alcohol, soda, foods that have been contaminated with pesticides and heavy metals and all of these things that they've been microdosing over time, which has affected them. And people don't realize dopamine and serotonin, when you talk about fear and anxiety, these are the neurotransmitters that are made. And people don't realize that 50% of your dopamine is made in your gut. 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. So if people don't eat properly, when they get exposed to health or in a state where their immune system is not able to fight things off, it's because they're not prepared. And this is where cannabis is a tool in their toolkit. And what I've been able to teach my patients is to say, hey, let's first teach you about the endocannabinoid system, explain to you that now you are the most important person, and I want you to listen to your body and be able to go in with the concerns that you have so that the doctor, within their 15 minutes, can appropriately help them. And this is why I love what I do, because I don't work for the system. I don't work for any health insurance companies. I don't work for any insurance institutions, Medicare, Medicaid. I work for my patients. So I get to actually spend the time and to follow my patients up and to guide them. And that's what people need, guidance. Otherwise, it's one pill, two pill, three pill. And patients now are tired of that and they want to take control of their health.
Yeah, it seems very much so like a system that doesn't listen that well when it is so connected to the insurance companies and accountability and liability. It in a way, like I wish there was more of a hybridization between the technology that we had and someone like you, I think you said your grandmother, who was able to just look at a human and see what they were suffering with, because it probably shows in their posture, on their skin, in their eyes, in their glow, so many things. And so I really want to applaud you for taking a different approach and seeing that there was so much more room for improvement. And I really want more people to be able to find you. So, uh, what are some things that you are getting into? What are some future projects? Tell the people like where they can maybe see you speaking live. How can they start learning what you know, because it's so vital, especially in these times?
I think the most important thing is that to know that there's information out there. And our website is upliftinghealthandwellness.com. The other name also is totalhealthcarethc.com. We are in Cambridge, Mass, but they can always contact us at 508 444 2324 by email, upliftinghealthandwellness at gmail.com. Our website usually will have a calendar of where we're going to be. And I know very soon we will be able to hug each other and we will be able to embrace one another. And I look forward to that sooner than people will understand. And so we will get that updated. But meanwhile, tomorrow is 420, and we will be out there spreading the word on different telecommunications and different speaking panels. And we'll keep you guys posted.
Beautiful. Do you have a link for that, or something that we might be able to show in the show notes?
On upliftinghealthandwellness.com, we will be able to post all of the things that will be happening.
Oh, great. Great. So definitely go to upliftinghealthandwellness.com, ladies and gentlemen. This is an interesting time that we're living in, and I really hope that all of you could take to heart what Dr. Uma was sharing with all of us about the very simple things we can do to keep ourselves healthy, regardless of these swells and these every so often epidemics we seem to have. There's so much information out there that we can educate ourselves on. And I just want to honor you one more time, Dr. Uma, and just remind everybody out there that you're going to be able to see her. She's featured heavily in The Magic Plant, which is Pete Evans' next film. We worked together on this. We traveled the world and spoke to all of the experts we could find in cannabis, in the whole field of cannabis. And Dr. Uma was just such a powerful presence there. So I can't wait for you guys to see that. And I really want to thank the audience for continuing to come back and listening to this podcast, the Waking Infinity podcast. So keep up to date, keep coming back to the website, check out Dr. Uma's work, and get involved in your own health and wellness. And I'll see you next time.